Marathon cooking here. We're going to make marathon pasta today. This meal will have in excess of 400 grams of carbohydrates and 120 grams of protein. It's vegan if you want it to be. It's spicy if you want it to be. It's going to be flavorful for sure. And again, it's going to power you through just about any run you take. The only option is this is whole wheat pasta. You might consider using white pasta if you're going to be running, say, very early in the morning and you're not drinking any caffeine, therefore making your digestive problems a bit less. Now, here goes. You're going to need tomatoes, very important. 1 can is sufficient. You can use 2 if you like a thicker sauce. I prefer 1. This will set you back about $2. These are Whole Foods organic whole peeled tomatoes. They are packed. This is very, very important. This is something you wouldn't think to look up. On the back, it should say that they are packed in tomato juice. You can have your tomatoes, and they're going to be packed in tomato juice. That's what you want. Olives. Olives add a lot of flavor. You can buy 1 can or 2 cans. I like to use a little bit of black. I like to use a little bit of green. These are both medium-sized olives. They're both grown in California. They're both inexpensive. They're probably a little bit less than $2 per can. You can use 1 can if you want, or if you don't want any, you don't have to use any. The pasta we're using is Whole Foods penne rigate, which is penne with little ridges on the sides to catch the sauce. That'll cost you around $2. Very, very inexpensive. Onions right here. This is the fresh item you're going to need that almost all these items can sit in your pantry for a while. Onions, you will need fresh onions if you want a decent amount of flavor. These are spring onions. If you don't have spring onions because it's not spring, well, you can just use a regular sweet onion. Will work perfect. Very inexpensive, and onions have a long shelf life as well. Garlic. A head of garlic. You can buy peeled garlic to save you a little bit of time. This is just unpeeled garlic that I bought in clove form. I'm going to use about half a head of garlic, which is probably going to result in 8 to 10 cloves of garlic. You can use a little bit less if you're sensitive to garlic, but you're going to be cooking it fully, so it's not going to have that really powerful raw garlic flavor. Instead, it's going to be tasting sweet. Whole Foods meatless meatballs. These are soy-free. These are vegan. So why do you want these and not, say, regular meatballs? Well, for a few obvious reasons. Number one, these are pretty lean. Is if you're going to be doing some long runs, you don't want to have something that's too fatty. Otherwise, it's going to be just sitting in there. The meatballs are inexpensive. They're going to be significantly cheaper than if you bought meatballs. I believe this is somewhere in the $4 range. It's a great product. It's made with wheat protein and a few others. It's cholesterol free. It's vegan. It's inexpensive. Again, great product. It tastes really good. It's actually quite moist. It's not really dry like a lot of these products. You're going to buy some wild arugula. If you don't have wild arugula, you're going to buy baby arugula. If you don't have baby arugula, you can try and find regular arugula. The reason why we're going to use arugula is for about the same price as basil, you get a lot more of it. It's got a nice, strong flavor to it that's really going to make your pasta a little bit more herbaceous. Then, if you're vegan, you don't need any Parmesan. My wife likes Parmesan cheese on her pasta. I actually prefer spicy pasta with little or no cheese. And I'm going to get that spice either from a fresh jalapeno, and I'm going to put that in during the cooking process. Or I'm going to use a little chili flake, which I'm going to use today because my wife is not a big fan of spicy food. So this is a very mild chili. A red chili flake is something you can pick up at the store for quite inexpensive. So again, this is a high-carb meal in excess of 400 carbohydrates, in excess of 120 grams of protein, and it's very, very inexpensive. Again, the most expensive thing here is probably arugula, which will set you back $3 to $4. The meatballs will set you back probably around $4 as well. Take your garlic. Looks like this. There's a lot of papery bits. Start ripping the papery bits off. Boom. Before you know it, you're going to have something that looks like this. Now, the key to getting this paper off, this skin, is you can either cut it in half and peel it off. It's a little bit easier that way. The easiest thing to do is take something heavy. Or if you have tough hands and you've been cooking a while, you go like that. The paper will come right off and then you have some peeled garlic. Perfect. You want to do, for this recipe, about 8 to 10 of those. If you're a little scared of fresh garlic, start off with 4. But again, you're going to be cooking it. It's going to bring the sweetness out, and that's exactly what you want. How you chop it is up to you. The thicker you chop it, the longer it's going to take to cook. For me personally, I like to just do a little rough chop on it, something like that. And you're going to get nice little bits that are going to be roughly that thick. So you need some onions for your tomato sauce. This is a spring onion. It's not going to have the papery coating, that's papery skin that's on the outside of the onion. If you're using a regular onion, you just simply need to slice it in half. Remove the outer few layers, the skin. You cannot cook that under any circumstance. It will get very tough. And the few outer layers of an onion can be a little fibrous. Occasionally, if there is any part that's going bad on the onion, it's on the very exterior. So get rid of that. For a spring onion, it should look like this. It should look fresh. It should look healthy. You're simply going to need to remove the end, like that, and get rid of that. The outer part, it's up to you how much you're going to use. The last little bit is not very edible, so I'm going to use about that much of my spring onion, and it's going to be really wonderful in the tomato sauce because it's going to bring out a lot of flavor. There's a lot of different ways you can slice it. I myself am just going to do something along these lines where it's going to be about that thick. Chop your onions, chop your garlic, throw in your chili, coat your pan with olive oil, and start it slow. The higher the temperature of your pan, the quicker it will burn. If you're comfortable stirring a lot and going high heat to get those onions translucent, that's fine. Right now I have it on a level 2. It's probably going to take 5 to 10 minutes, occasional stirring. I may turn it up if I have time to continually stir it and watch for the onions to go translucent. Do not burn the garlic. You're looking to make sure that the garlic does not start turning dark brown. That will become very bitter and unedible. Take your can of tomatoes, pour it into a big mixing bowl. Take a little bit of water, swish it around in that, and then you can pour a little bit of that into here so you don't miss the little bits. Now, without making a ton of mess, you're going to take your hand, you're going to reach it in, and you're going to squeeze the heck out of these tomatoes. I'm done. I've squeezed them all. This is what I have, a nice thinner mixture that I'm going to reduce down to be much thicker, but it's really going to come together quite nicely. If you want a large quantity of tomatoes, use 2 cans of tomatoes, but do the exact same thing. Okay, onions are looking translucent. We are ready to go. Everything looks really, really nicely. Simply going to pour in my tomato mixture. Woo! And now we're going to stir it up and let it go. It's going to take quite a bit of time, maybe 20 minutes. It's going to reduce nicely. I'm going to make sure to keep the lid off. I'm going to keep it around a level 4 out of 10. If it gets bubbling too hard, then I will lower it down a bit. At this point, I'm just going to add a pinch of salt, a little bit of pepper, not too much, because I'm going to be throwing in some olives in just a little bit. The olives have quite a bit of sodium or salt with those, so they are going to make the tomato flavor really come out, because flavors are really brought out with salt. Tomatoes and salt are a great combination. Pour your cans of olives into a colander and just give them a light smash with your hand. It's going to be a lot faster than chopping them up. Just give them a light smash with your hand. Make sure there's no whole olives in there, because that makes a few different bites worth of flavor. So this is what my sauce looks like with my smashed olives in it. As you can see, there's quite a bit of olives. That's because my wife and I love olives. The only important thing to remember is you only want to buy olives that are cured or packed in salt, with salt, not vinegar. the vinegar will be too strong of an acidic combination with tomatoes. Okay, my sauce is about the consistency that I want. I don't want to lose any more by having it boil off. However, I do want my tomatoes to break down a little bit more. I can tell just by looking at them, they're still intact more than I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn down the heat and throw a lid on. By throwing a lid on, it's going to increase the temperature and I'm going to not lose anything from boiling off as long as I tilt the lid and make sure the liquid goes back in when I pull it off. My water is boiling. My sauce is looking good. I'm going to salt the water, a lot of salt. We're going to use this water later in addition to cooking. More on that in just a bit. I'm going to set my timer for 13 minutes because my pasta says on the side that it's going to take 15 to 17. I'm going to taste it at 13. You hear that? Set your timer early. Pour your pasta in. You're good to go. At 13 minutes, which is 2 minutes before it says on the box, I'm going to do two things. Number one is I'm going to get a Pyrex measuring cup and I'm going to dip it into the water and I'm going to get some pasta water out, which sounds crazy. It's one of the most essential Italian things you can do. You're then going to pour a little splash into your sauce. That is going to help the pasta bind with the sauce. There's starch in that water, there's salt in that water. It's what you need. Then, because we're, again, a little bit early on that, we're going to fish one piece of pasta out. We're going to put it on our cutting board, let it cool. We're going to taste it. I'm going to do that every 30 seconds to a minute until it's perfect. It should be just, and there's my 13-minute alarm, it should be just tender enough, but still have a little bit of chew, because if it doesn't have a little bit of chew, when we throw it in and cook it in here, it will not cook or it'll overcook. Take your arugula, dump the whole box into your sauce, come over to your colander, because you just threw your pasta in your colander. Don't bother shaking out the water is your friend. Pour it on top. Now stir that around like crazy. Make sure you do not turn the heat off. Keep the heat on. In fact, I might even turn the heat up to around 4 and just keep stirring. Good luck. Okay, our pasta ended up taking around 15 minutes to finish up. I'm cooking it just a little bit more in the sauce. As you can see, it's a beautiful thing. To plate it, if you're a vegan, you want to add some chili flake to give it a little spice. Make sure you taste it. See if you need to add salt. Add salt in here. Stir it around. Taste it again. See how much salt you need. If you're a vegetarian, you can add some Parmesan cheese on top and you've got a great meal. And here's what our pasta looks like plated. Before I plated it, I tasted it again. I added a touch more salt, a touch more pepper. Myself, I'm going to add some chili flakes on top of this particular bowl. And we're done. It's a beautiful bowl of pasta.